So guys, it's that time of the weekend, back for our championship score predictions. Let's hop into it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Quite a bit to talk through in today's video. Obviously, we have all of the midweek games to go ahead and digest. We'll speak about them throughout today's video. But the main topic of conversation is, of course, going to be our championship score predictions. As always, make sure to get your score predictions in the comments down below and get yourself onto that prediction leaderboard as we head into this sort of festive period, you know, getting into December. This is where things start to really ramp up in the championship, and this is the sort of part of the season where it can really make or break a side momentum. So yeah, a lot of big matches coming up this weekend, which I'm interested to see which way you guys are going for them. And before we jump into any of our score predictions, let's take a look at the updated prediction leagues after all of the midweek action. It is Reece McGrath who stays in the number 1 spot. 5 points is giving him a total of 169 points so far. Very close in there on the top. I've just consolidated my place in 4th place at this point in time, so hoping for a big scoreline this week. In League 1, it's Alfie Rycroft who's flown to the top of League 1 with a 6-pointer in game week 19, leaves him on 145 in total. Ethan Hanley had an absolute masterclass of a week, didn't he? 13 points. And then for League 2, it's Cian Shagan who's dropped down to the top of League 2 with 135 points. As ever, League 1 very close from top to bottom. But without any further ado, guys, let's jump into these score predictions. And so starting out tonight at the Hawthorns, it's West Brom going up against Nottingham Forest. Both sides involved in goalless draws in midweek. West Brom had that 0-0 they were held to at Bloomfield Road. West Brom have now had 45 shots in their last 2 matches, failed to score on either of them, but only of those 45 shots, only 5 of them were actually on target. Goals have been a bit of an issue for this West Brom side recently. They've only scored 2 goals now in their last 5 matches, and I think Forest will come into this one looking to frustrate West Brom. It was another draw for Forest in midweek. That's now 4 out of their last 5 matches in the Championship ending as draws, but a decent point considering the circumstances in the end. Obviously, they gave away that penalty, had to play the majority of the second half down to 10 men, but Bryce Samba came up with the save in that one. I do think that they are missing Max Lowe down that left-hand side at the moment. I think it does limit them a little bit, both from a defensive aspect and their ability to sort of build out from the back on that side. You know, it was Jack Colback who was filling in that position in midweek, but after his red card, he'll be suspended in this one. You'd imagine it'd be Gaetan Bong coming in for the trip to the Hawthorns this weekend. So for a score prediction in this one, fancying another draw in this one, I think I'm going to go for a 1-1 to kick things off today, with FIFA going 2-0 West Brom. West Brom just need to find their flow again, don't they? Next then we head to Deepdale for the early kickoff on Saturday. It's Preston going up against Fulham. Now, you'd think this one would be quite straightforward, and for a Fulham 3-pointer in this one, but they could have quite a few key players missing. I think there's an illness going around Fulham at the moment, and a number of key players are set to be assessed today in terms of whether they will be available for selection. Obviously, Mitro was missing for that goalless draw they had in midweek against Derby, which they probably should have won, to be honest with you. They had 21 shots in that game. I think the highest XG of any Championship side in midweek. They hit the crossbar, hit the post, and had quite a few other close shaves in that one. But the 6 players that could potentially be missing due to illness are the likes of Mitrovic, Kearney, Harrison Reed, Bobby Reed, Wilson and Robinson. So quite a number of their big players in there. But even without those names, Fulham still have an incredibly stacked squad for this division. And Preston in midweek where it was just bizarre, to be honest with you. If you've not watched the match day vlog from the Middlesbrough away match, make sure to go ahead and check it out, because for 75 minutes of that game I thought we were absolutely awful. But then from nowhere we turned around the game. Ched Evans with a header off the bench, and then Emil Rees was gifted the golden opportunity by Sol Bamba, who laid it to him on the plate. So yeah, Preston are just a really weird side at the moment, and I wouldn't put it past us, doing something to Fulham in this one if they do have all those players out. But realistically, I think that probably normality resumes in this one. I'm going to say 2-0 Fulham, and FIFA's going to agree with me. Next up then we go to St Andrews. It's Birmingham going up against Blackpool. Both these sides involved in goalless draws in midweek. Birmingham had that 0-0 with Coventry. Improvement in terms of performance, but the talking point coming out of that game, certainly the Ryan Woods red card, and that's had a load of debate on social media over these last couple of days. Birmingham did appeal the red card, but it has since been rejected. So not only will they be without Woods for this game, but also Gardner as well, who's still serving his suspension suspension from the weekend. So Birmingham are looking particularly weak in that central position. I'm not sure who comes in this scenario, whether it is a youngster that they'll have to draft in alongside Sunjic. So for that reason, Blackpool may sense they've got a bit of an opportunity in this one. Blackpool themselves been fairly draw heavy lately. I think their last 3 matches all ended as draws, but they've been decent on the whole away from home so far this season. Midweek was a decent point against a decent West Brom side. Obviously had to defend a lot of that from the edge of their box, but had chances themselves, and like we were mentioning before, if it wasn't for a terrific Sam Johnson save, Blackpool could have gone on to win that game. I just think that with some of the injuries that Birmingham still have and the suspensions taken into consideration as well, Blackpool could sneak this one. I think it'll be a fairly low scoring one. 1-1 wouldn't surprise me, but I'll just edge Blackpool for a 1-0 away from home there. FIFA's going 1-0 Birmingham. I think that'll be quite a tight one. Next up then we go to Bournemouth up against Coventry. This should be an interesting game. Bournemouth are involved in that 1-1 draw in midweek. Thought they were probably missing someone like Philip Billing in that game. Obviously he was serving a suspension for picking up the yellow cards, but he will be back for this weekend. And Bournemouth in general, like a lot of teams at the moment, do seem to have quite a few first teamers out. I think this game though will show what they're really made of, because both sides are heading into what is quite a tricky run of fixtures from now on in their next couple. After this, Bournemouth have games against Fulham and Blackburn, 2 really quite tricky matches, and Coventry have back-to-back games against Bournemouth, followed up by West Brom. So yeah, this will be a really interesting point of the season for both of them. I do think this will be a good game of football. I would like to say that there will be chances created, and especially after all the 0-0 draws that we had in the Championship in midweek, I'd like to put my hopes on this one being a good game of football at least. But for a score prediction, I think I'm just edging towards Bournemouth in this game. I know things haven't quite clicked for them in recent matches, but I think they may get back into their groove in this one. Coventry created some great chances in midweek against Birmingham. Probably should have won that game with the opportunities they had, but Bournemouth may be getting back to their best. I'm just going to edge the home side for a 2-1 home victory, with FIFA going 1-0 Coventry. Next up we then go to Huddersfield up against Middlesbrough. Huddersfield have been really strong at home recently. Away in midweek, obviously, to QPR, things didn't quite go to plan in that one. Wasn't all too much in it, but in the second half just seemed to lose their way a little bit, and obviously QPR got that late goal to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm expecting them to give Middlesbrough a good run for their money in this one though, because Middlesbrough are a side who have been really tough to put your finger on so far under Chris Wilder, because against both Millwall and Preston, on the whole, I think they played pretty well in both matches, to be honest with you, but they've only ended up walking away with 1 point from both of them. I was at the Riverside in midweek, and for the first sort of 70 minutes of that match, I thought that Middlesbrough were in complete control. They obviously got that goal in the first half, Paddington there scoring it, and from then on I thought they'd go on and get 2-3 goals, and they had the chances to go ahead and do that, but I don't know whether it was a sense of complacency, whether they ran out of energy and lost a little bit of spark or something, but that equaliser that Preston got just seemed to completely sink Middlesbrough, and they weren't the sort of same side after that. So yeah, tough one to predict. I think I am edging towards a Huddersfield winning this one. Their home record's been really strong recently, and Chris Wilder hasn't quite got it all figured out at Borough at this point in time, although I do think that generally their performances have been decent. So I'm going to go 2-1 Huddersfield in this game. FIFA's going at 1-0 Huddersfield. Next up then we go to Hull up against Millwall. Hull 3 wins on the bounce for them. Absolutely massive to give them a little bit of breathing space between themselves and the relegation zone. But yeah, absolutely crucial result in midweek up against the Cardiff side. They got that goal from a set piece themselves. It's normally Cardiff who are the deadly side from set pieces, and then in the second half they had to ride that out a little bit. Generally Cardiff do improve in second halves, and they certainly had their fair share of hairy moments, Cardiff hitting the post and things like that. But 3 wins on the bounce, and what's most impressive about all that is 3 clean sheets on the bounce. I think that Bax has been absolutely excellent since he's come into this side. It will be a tough game in this one though, up against quite a resilient Millwall side. Millwall going back to their roots really. Their last 3 matches have all ended as 1-1 draws, and Gary Rowett doing what he does best. But on the whole, good point for them in midweek against a very good Bournemouth side. Benikofobe with the goal in that game, and I don't know why, I've just got a bit of a gut feeling that Millwall may end up doing a bit of a number on Hull for this one. It does have the feel of quite a low scoring match, so a sort of 0-0 or a 1-0 either way wouldn't surprise me, but I'm just going to edge Millwall in this one, maybe because they've got that bit more sort of, you know, streetwise know-how about them in the Championship, but yeah, I've just got a gut feeling about that one. I'll say 1-0 Millwall. FIFA's going to agree with me. Who knows? Coming up next, we're then heading to Kenilworth Road. It's Luton going up against Cardiff. Luton involved in a goalless draw in midweek, where once again they had the chances to probably go on and win that game, similar to, you know, QPR and Stoke. They got into some really good positions in the final third and just couldn't make that quality count. The best chance obviously being that penalty which Bryce Samba managed to get to, and ultimately another bit of a frustrating result for Luton given their performance level. Going up against this Cardiff side in this one, who were pretty poor in midweek. Obviously, to lose that game against Hull wasn't ideal, given their situation and how much, you know, further down the table they've sunk closer to that relegation zone. They have, and this is a pattern which has popped up in quite a lot of Cardiff matches recently, they did improve in the second half but couldn't get that comeback like they've shown in recent matches. But they can't continue along this path of giving the opposition, you know, a 45-minute head start on them and then, you know, working their way back into matches in the second half. For this one, I don't think there'll be all too much in this one. I think that Cardiff are going to look to come into it, try and be resolute and sound at the back. Luton probably will create chances, but do they have the quality to go ahead and finish them off? I'm going to predict a goalless draw for this one. I think I've got to throw one in there, and FIFA's going for a 1-0 Cardiff away win. Next up then we go to a relegation 6-pointer at the bottom of the Championship. It's Peterborough going up against Barnsley. Now it does feel like it is Barnsley who are more in need of the result here, but yeah, both sides could desperately do with 3 points in this one. Each of them have lost their last 3. Both looked really shoddy in midweek. Obviously Barnsley didn't exactly have the new manager bounce that a few of us were maybe expecting them to have against Swansea. Swansea absolutely passed them off the park in that one, and defensively once again they look quite shoddy for that game. The second goal they conceded especially, I'm not sure how much time and space they thought they could afford to give to a player as good as Jamie Patterson, but yeah, he had the licence to all of Oakwell in that game it seemed. Peterborough themselves looked fairly shoddy in midweek, lost 4-0 against Blackburn. Once again individual mistakes, which has been the sort of story of Peterborough's season so far this season. However, Peterborough, in fairness to them, do tend to have moments, especially in home matches, when things do click for them in a forward sense. I would like to say that there will be goals in this one, primarily because it's two of the leakiest defences in the league coming up against each other in this game, and for that reason, I think maybe it's just Peterborough who edge this one with that bit more about them in the final third. So I'm going to go 2-1 Peterborough in this game. FIFA's going 1-0 Barnsley. It does feel like if Barnsley were to lose that game, it feels like they've got a real mountain to climb after that. Next up then we go to Stoke up against Blackburn. This is quite the interesting game. Both sides have been in and around the top 6 for the majority of the season so far. Stoke had quite a frustrating result in midweek, I think it's fair to say. They came into that game against Bristol City off the back of 3 consecutive wins, and they played pretty well by all accounts in midweek, certainly by the chances they created, but ultimately they were undone by a long throw-in, and then Joe Allen's frustrations obviously boiled over towards the end as he was shown a second yellow card. Blackburn absolutely ripped their way through Peterborough. I'm expecting this game to be a little bit more competitive and tough for them, but away from home and on the break, you know, I do see them getting some opportunities in this one. Ben Brereton Diaz just can't stop scoring at the moment, can he? So yeah, back and forth this one. I'm expecting this game to be. Stoke, it's a question of if they can take their chances or not. I don't think there'll be all too much in it between these two. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, I think. FIFA's going for a 0-0 in this one. Coming up next, we then go to Swansea up against Reading. Swansea just continuing to build as this season goes on. Look quite comfortable in midweek and absolutely passed Barnsley off the park in that game. Scored some lovely goals in that one as well. The first one really nicely taken, good build up to that goal. Lovely ball whipped in by Manning from that left-hand side. And the second goal, brilliant take from Jamie Patterson running into the box. Going up against a Reading side who will be fairly low on confidence as things stand at the moment. Obviously that 6-point deduction really has dropped the minute, particularly on this current run of form. It's just 1 win in 7 now for Reading after that defeat in midweek, which is relegation form, and that's where they are at the moment in the table. If you look at their squad, sort of pound for pound compared to the other teams that they're up against in this region of the table at the moment, you would think that Reading would have enough to sort of pull clear of that. But with potentially some impending sales coming in that January transfer window, it does make for a little bit of a sticky situation. In terms of the game itself in this one, I think it's got to be Swansea that I am fancying for this one. I think 4 possession, chances created. Yeah, I think I'm fancying the home side. I'm going to go 2-0 Swansea in this game, with FIFA going 1-0 Reading. Next up then to Bramall Lane, and plenty to talk about this one, obviously. First things first, my best wishes go out to John Fleck. Obviously quite a scary situation in midweek, but thankfully he has since been discharged from hospital. Other than that though, it's been quite the turbulent week for Sheffield United fans, with the dismissal of Jukanovic after the win in midweek. It seems to be a popular thing now to be parting ways with managers after picking up all 3 points, and the arrival of Paul Heckingbottom, which is, to be honest with you, it's all been a little bit confusing to me. Certainly some of the stuff which has been coming out on social media since his arrival. One of the quotes which has come out from the club is, "Paul won't be judged on what happens on a Saturday afternoon. He'll be judged on how good the football department is." Now, I've read that quote about 100 times. I've still got no idea whatsoever what it means. We're not getting any sort of clarity from Sheffield United at the moment, and it's all a little bit muddled, and I feel like most of the fan base is feeling like that. So yeah, Sheffield United fans, I welcome you guys to lay your thoughts out in the comments down below, but I'm not sure how I feel any of this, because I'm not sure what they're actually trying to do, if that makes sense. This game I'm sure will be potentially a bit of a tricky one. Bristol City picked up a good result in midweek, getting their way past Stoke. Not the prettiest performance of the season, but 3 points at home is more than welcome at Ashton Gate at the moment. So for a score prediction in this one, I mean, in general, Sheffield United still have been pretty uninspiring recently. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this one. FIFA's going 2-0 Bristol City. Yeah, Sheffield United fans, what have you made of all of this? Let me know down below. Last up then, we've got some Monday Night Football going on in the Championship this week. It's Derby going up against QPR. Derby, fair play to them, because they keep proving me wrong in my score predictions. After that Barnsley defeat, I think it would have been quite easy for them to have sort of, you know, felt a bit sorry for themselves. You know, after that extra point deduction kicked in after that as well. But Derby lately, to be fair to them, have really had this grit between the teeth, haven't they? That comeback against Bournemouth was absolutely fantastic, and a great point in midweek against Fulham, obviously, albeit Fulham without Mitrovic, but still going away to Craven Cottage and picking up a point. Not many sides will go ahead and do that this season. And QPR themselves got a good win in midweek. It was the second half in that game against Huddersfield when they seemed to click up a gear. Obviously, Luke Amos getting that goal to go on and win that one. Away from home, they've been a little bit more patchy though, a little bit more hit and miss in terms of their results. And just for the sake of it, because what we're seeing from Derby at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if QPR maybe have a bit of a slip in this one. You know, Derby aren't to be taken lightly at the moment, so why not? I'll back Derby for that one. I'll go 2-1 Derby. It's been a while since I predicted them to win. FIFA's going for a 1-1 draw. There we have it though, guys. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, make sure to get your thoughts and score predictions in the comments down below. Loads to talk about when it comes to the Championship at the moment, both the on and off field issues that we've got going on. But yeah, as always, make sure to go ahead and leave a like if you did go on to enjoy. Stick around for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.